Hey, we're going live. I'm getting ready to go and hang out with my friend Dia Beltran from Australia. You've met her before. I know you've met her before. She's been on the show quite a few times in the past. Been a little quiet over there on her side of the world. I think she's just trying to lay low and whatnot. And honestly, tonight, before I invited her to the show, we were discussing what our topics were going to be. We're like, hey, let's discuss spanking because that seems like a pretty important topic to me anyway. I don't know how it is for her, but I went on the internet and I tried to find just the most evil, vicious looking picture. But as it turns out, that picture doesn't exist. I can't find anything that makes her look like an idiot. So there goes that way of winning the argument. So I'm going to have to actually use my words tonight, and I'm going to have to actually discuss with her whether or not spanking is like immoral or something. And we'll have back and forth. It's not a formal debate or anything like that. We're just having a discussion. So definitely hop in the chats at any point. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions for either one of us, please feel free to throw it in there. And I suppose now would be a good time as any to invite my friend Dia to the show. What do you think? Let's bring her in. I think it'll be fun. So there she is. Good morning, Miss Dia.
Hello.
All right.
Oh, echo.
Oh, echo for you? Or
Yeah.
echo for me?
Echo for me. I hear myself. I don't now.
Okay.
I don't now. Just
Good,
when
good.
I said hello.
Good. That would be atrocious. Like that would be actually, yeah, let's do it that. Let's blame it on technical difficulties. Why I crushed Dia in a discussion on spanking tonight. What do you think? Yeah, that'll be the headlines tomorrow. Daniel Wagner from Unframe of Mind crushes Dia on spanking. Or Daniel Wagner gives Dia the spanking of her life in a live debate. No.
Hey.
None of this funny to you.
Whatever floats your boat.
Boy, we got a tough crowd tonight. So clearly we're not talking about that kind of spanking tonight. That's why, when I was posting this.
Not with children, no. That's more adult spanking.
Yeah, I specifically put is spanking children abusive because I know the minds of our viewers, and I know they're going to look at that text and be like, it's not abusive if you like it.
Yeah.
Which is true. Consensual spanking is fine. Perfectly fine. But I don't know about you, but I can't think for the life of me about a single child anywhere in the world ever who has consented to getting spanked.
I can think of one, Stewie Griffin from Family Guy. He liked it.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you Stewie Griffin. Stewie Griffin. He's a
cartoon.
Yeah, that's a glutton for punishment right there for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe a closeted flaming homosexual, but there's that too. Less little heart. Oh, with a bit of a crush on his. No, it's not a crush on his mom. That's Brian.
No, he actually wants to kill his mom.
Yeah, he wants to kill his mom, which is basically the same thing. It's
that's far more acceptable.
Yeah,
that's far more society.
Clearly an Oedipus complex going on here for sure. All right, so what do you say we jump right in? I don't know if you want to. I know we're not doing a formal debate, so I have set it up already. I've told people that I am anti-spanking, and you are. Would I be wrong in saying you're pro-spanking or?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, it comes with a bit more context than that, but yeah, I could say that.
So that's I guess that's what we can get into. Like when you say there's more context, like what do you mean by that?
I mean that there are other ways of disciplining a child that would lead to them being obedient, conscientious, moral children. You don't have to smack them, but I don't think smacking should be considered abusive. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, I understand that there's a lot of nuance to that as well, and that a man, most likely a father, won't want to smack a female daughter. Maybe he'd be okay with smacking his son, but maybe not a female because he doesn't want to attribute that like psychologically to men and stuff like that. So there is always other layers to look at, but overall, I don't think smacking is abusive. No.
Smacking. So you call it smacking
or spanking, whatever. Yeah.
Smacking. Same. Okay. I just want to make sure we're not.
I think it's an interchangeable word between Australians and Americans.
Gotcha. Those Australians over there. That's how you get away with it. You just say, "I'm not spanking. I'm smacking." Okay, so I'm going to paste in the comments here. I just grabbed a description and I'll read it to you and see if we can agree to this. about a basic definition of spanking, so we can kind of be clear we're both referring to the exact same thing here.
Okay, so
So
spanking
the
is a
definition I posted was spanking is a common form of corporal punishment involving the act of striking with either the palm of the hand or an implement the buttocks of a person to cause physical pain. Okay,
Yes.
so that is a fair. We agree 100%. That is our definition we're working with tonight.
And I was smacked on the bum.
And you
I
were
was
smacked.
never smacked anywhere else on my body. It
Oh
was
Lord,
always the bum.
yeah. Did you receive it with just the palm of the hand, or with implements, or was how did that
So
manifest?
there's an instrument when you're making cake, and it's like a rubbery thing, and you use it to get it out of the bowl.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
That's what I was smacked with.
Oh, so like the little like
What it,
silicone rubbery tip.
it's rubbery. It hardly. I mean, it hurts, but like it hardly hurts. It's not like using a knife or like the back of a belt buckle or something.
Right. No, I totally get it. I've been
Yeah.
personally, when I was coming up, I was spanked with various implements.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure. Though, I mean, it was between a leather belt, or it could have been a wooden board, a ping pong paddle.
Oh.
It was a wooden spoon. Kind of. You think of like the old Asian mother that kind of grabs whatever's within reach and just kind of throws it at you. Like that's kind of the upbringing I had. I wouldn't necessarily, and I never really defined it as or thought of it as abusive.
No.
In hindsight, I mean, this is when I was younger, of course,
Sure.
before I
Sure.
changed my mind. But being younger, you think, oh well, I'm just a bad kid. I deserve this. This is kind of how things are. All my other friends are getting spanked too, so this is kind of normal. It's normalized, right? It's normalized. So
Until what? What happened for you to change your mind? You had kids
oh,
yourself.
so yeah, I had kids myself, and let me see. My kids were probably about 10. The oldest one was 11, maybe, when I ran across some arguments that were made, and they were very strong arguments. And it was one of those things where, I pride myself on like critical thinking skills. And if I hear
Yes.
arguments to the
Well.
contrary, I have to be open, and in light of new evidence, I have to change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of those cases for sure. It was really weird, like seeing this, like this inner struggle with myself. It's like I'm hearing these arguments, they're sound arguments, and I'm going, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. Here, like I started going and researching. I'm like, okay, where's the evidence for spanking? Where's the positive benefits of spanking? Like what's my argument for it? Like what are some good counter arguments for it? And I kept trying to go back and forth and figure out, like, okay, what's going on? And the more I researched, the more I found out that I didn't have a leg to stand on. Like
Why? Like
did.
what suddenly what was in the information that you found that made you realize like the stats and figures and all that is okay, but then if you've come from personal experience and you were smacked and you didn't feel like it was abusive at the time, what can make you change your mind coming from an environment where that did occur?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And I think, let me see how I can answer that. At first, it was one of those things. It was like I heard. I'm trying to think of what the statistics were. Um, I think one of the arguments, or the statistics, I guess, was that there was only out of all of the effects that could be studied, with spanking or whatever. I think they said there was only like one of those effects could even be considered a positive effect, and that effect was that you get the immediate compliance of the child in the moment. That
Sure.
was it. That was the only positive that could be that could be made out of it. A lot of the other effects that came up was a lot of you had social issues. You had obesity ends up being kind of tied to it loosely. You have a number of other psychological issues that come up. You have higher levels of aggression come up. You have this model for, might makes right. Like it's almost like you have this perfect incubator for what we see as what our governments are now. It's like this, well, the government says we have to do this, so that's how we have to do it. Otherwise, we're going to go to jail. We got a direct punishment for acting out of line. There's no way to negotiate with your government, just like
Well,
there's no way to negotiate with your parents, right?
a government and a parent-child relationships, two slightly different things, but I see your point.
No,
Yeah.
I totally get it. I've always, not always, but at some point I kind of realized that what happens in the household is just a microcosm for what happens on the whole. It really is.
Sure, sure. No, no, no. I think
Everything
I
that
can
we
agree
do on
with
the
that.
national stage starts at home. it starts in the household and what's acceptable in the local family. I mean, as far as I can tell. But yeah, we got a comment here. A Facebook user says that I disagree with the quote causes physical pain as the goal.
No, the goal is for the child to be overall, as I said at the very beginning, a conscientious, obedient person who knows the difference between right and wrong.
Right. Yeah. See,
That's the overall.
Here's a weird thing. It's I don't know. I'm trying to think of literally any other relationship where you could like use that as a form of.
But you wouldn't in any other relationship. It's strictly parent-child.
Exactly.
It has to be strictly parent-child, and only would exist in those confines.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Why is that acceptable? But like, I can't like if you and I had a disagreement, and I'm like, I need you. Say you're my employee. I'm like, hey, I need you to go clean out the ice machine, and you're like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'm like, ma'am, I'm going to need you to come to my office so you can receive your spankings because you're disobeying an order. You're not an obedient client and doing the right thing.
Because a child doesn't have the mental understanding and cognitive capacity to always understand just a conversation or just definitions. Sometimes you understand things with action, and sometimes it's just quicker and easier. But as long as the child understands that you don't want to smack them, that's just the given. You've done something wrong. The given is this. Now, as I said, you don't have to smack the kid. That could be a last resort. You could just shove the kid at the bottom of the stairs and be like, this is your timeout or whatever. But if all of that doesn't work, then I think a smack makes sense and they understand, okay.
I'm sure that was just a misspeak of, or not a misspeak, but just a term of from someone from Australia. The fact of shoving a kid down the stairs.
Oh, sorry, just place the kid there. Sorry, it's just a casual slang.
I knew what you meant, but it sounded very bad. Like, yeah, don't worry about spanking your kids. Just shove them down the stairs. They'll get it.
Yeah, but also from my perspective, it's biblical.
Pushing them down the stairs is not abusive.
No.
If it's only like 3 stairs, but anything more
than
that.
No, I just meant if you were in the family room, which was downstairs, then you place them in the zone that would be the timeout zone or whatever the hell.
I know what you mean. I'm being intentionally obtuse here.
But it's biblical. It's also biblical. So the reason I have a better understanding of this than maybe someone like yourself is because I understand the confines between a parent-child relationship in the biblical sense. And for you, it's obviously, you send the child to their room.
Well, I am an atheist. So,
I said that so condescendingly.
If we're gonna, yeah, you did, but that's okay. I don't hold it against you. I know you don't. There was
no, I meant it, but I mean, I was just being a bitch.
You're doing well. You're doing well. So, Patriot Punk says, spanking is a tool. Just like every tool, it needs to be used correctly, and incorrect use can cause harm.
Yes.
Okay.
I think both of us would agree with that, though. I don't think.
No, yeah. I absolutely don't agree with that for sure. It is a tool. We'll give you that, but so is a nuclear missile. It's a tool. Probably not okay to use it though. Might be a little immoral.
I don't even know why you would parallel the two. They're not even in the same category. Well,
I'm just pointing out it is a tool. Yes, just because it's called a tool doesn't mean it's moral to use it or not use it, right? It depends on how you use it. Now, if I'm
it has to be used in the right space. Like
right, spanking as a tool in the bedroom with your lady friend is probably the right way to use that tool, right?
Sure, if it's between the two of them, but with a child, it's the last resort thing, and then you smack them, and it's like, don't touch the fire or something. I don't know. Don't play with fire, and then they keep doing it. Then you smack them.
Let's play with that. Let's go down that road. Because I always was curious about that. Like, I get a lot of people will try to say, well, you smack your kid's hand away from it. Well, that's not quite with the intention of causing pain. It's not really. That's not. You're like trying to save your kid's hand. That's a different thing. We're not really discussing.
In general, they shouldn't be playing with fire. I would smack my kid. I would push him out of the way if a car was coming toward them. Like you sometimes you need to act.
Right. No, I would totally hope that you would do that for me, even if you saw I was about to get hit by a car. Like shove my ass away. I would never like hold that against you. I'm not going to call the cops and be like,
I would leave you there.
Yeah, this bitch totally just like assaulted me. And you're like, I just saved your life. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm in America. I can sue you. So No, I would be perfectly okay with that. That's not even what we're referring to. I think what we're referring to is something a little bit different.
We're talking about adults with minors.
Using it as a well, right, but using it as a disciplinary tool of sorts.
Sure. Yes.
See, I back in the day when you could actually kind of trust some of the stats and stuff you read on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten so bad nowadays with especially with all the liberalization of all these colleges and shit. It's gotten ridiculous. So I don't even know. Like you can't even like pull up an article and like share it with your liberal friends or your conservative friends and they're like, it disagrees with me. It's probably fake. You can't even do that anymore. But anyway, back then the statistics were really impactful on me, I guess, and just seeing, okay, yeah, we were talking about anecdotal evidence. Like you and I, we grew up, we were spanked, and we turned out fine. We're productive members of society, right?
Yes, that's the argument most people tend to use. Yes.
Right. And it's like, well, that's great anecdotal evidence. Just like, I grew up with an alcoholic father and I turned out fine. Therefore, it's okay to be an alcoholic father. Like that would be that same line of it doesn't make it okay, right? I mean, it's just anecdotal is all it is.
Okay, well, let's use that argument, but improve on the argument. Would you say that the world today and the people of today are far more insane than when we were younger?
Far more insane. I would say they are far more insane.
Societally. Yes, I think those people needed to be freaking smacked. And they
So
probably weren't.
I think that's where we disagree that it's a fact of smack versus no smack, and that's kind of a false dichotomy.
Well,
Let me explain.
I'm just using the information I have before me. Today, society is far worse. When our parents were little, society was far better, at least with common sense logic.
Yeah, I totally get it. I don't know that I would place the blame for that at the hands of spank versus no spank. I think that would be more. There's a lot more influence in social media. There's a lot more influence in.
That's all true.
I would say there's a lot more rampant neglect going on. Which, if I had a choice to, if I had to choose between raising my kid by spanking or neglecting, I would choose the spanking 100% of the time because the neglect is way worse
Sure.
for your kids. So I mean, and I think honestly, we're seeing a lot more of that. It's funny. There was a I don't know if you've seen this. There was a meme that was going around years ago. I remember seeing this. A bunch of like hoodlums sitting on the steps, looking all like gangstered out and everything. They got their do-rags on, their pants sagging, and people are like, "Oh, well, these kids right here wouldn't turned out like this if they were spanked."
I agree with that.
Now, here's the problem with that. When you start actually digging into the statistics, which demographic do you think receives spanking more? Whites or blacks?
Probably blacks.
Yeah, blacks receive spanking more. Mexicans
and they're okay. Mexican
somewhere
yes.
in whites, and it's really weird because you can see this trend, and you're like, wait a minute, this whole group of black kids sitting on the steps. The idea is that they weren't spanked enough when statistically they're more likely to be spanked was hilarious to me.
That is funny because we know that they have a higher criminal statistic and jail sentencing and all that kind of stuff. The difference I think there is that it's predominantly single parents. There's no father in the home, and so the smacking isn't sufficient. It would be if there was a more balanced, if the home was more balanced. Not everyone is going to end up like Dr. Ben Carson. You know what I mean? Right. Those are anomalies.
You are not going to find any disagreement with me whatsoever on the fact that fatherlessness and single parent households have been, I'd say, more detrimental than literally anything else that's happened in the past couple decades, for sure.
Yeah, and that's Bill Clinton's fault, isn't it?
It's probably a little bit of everything. I tie it back to the welfare state, the fact that women can get welfare, therefore they don't have to choose good providers. You know what I'm saying? Their consequences of their actions are being covered up with money from free money.
Because they're getting handouts.
Right. So I just tie it all the way back to welfare. So you get rid of welfare, you solve a lot of the problems.
Bloody oath you do. The black contingent, the black demographic was far more successful in the 40s, 50s, 60s when America was more racist and had the crow. What's it called? Crow.
Jim Crow.
Jim Crow, thank you. Yeah, I knew there was a crow there.
and no welfare state. No welfare state.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Someone wrote.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to
that's
say it
that's
passionately.
bullshit. Thank you for that. Man, that, honestly, that is probably the strongest argument I've seen all night, and I have no choice. I have to change my mind now. I'm gonna go and whip all my kids soundly and make up for the last like 10 years that I haven't been able to. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, from what I know about you personally, one of your kids certainly could have been smacked more.
This is true. This is true. Again, anecdotal. But Puddin says, I think are way more people that still need to be smacked.
I
Now,
agree.
now, getting your ass knocked out by a fellow adult because you keep running at the mouth might be a little different. I'm like, I can kind of overlook that, but we're talking about an even playing field at that point, right?
But you need to oversee things. You need to make sure that your response to everything is not just a smack, because then you're not getting to the heart of the issue.
Right. So going back to the example of the stove, I was just curious, like at
The
what
stove. Oh
at,
yeah, the fire. Yeah.
at what age do you think it would become no longer appropriate to smack your kid for
Of
touching the
what
stove?
age?
Yeah.
Maybe stop at 10. I don't know. I'm not a parent yet. God willing, that does happen for me
Yeah,
someday. And who
absolutely. No,
knows?
for sure.
Oh, I hope so. My opinion may change by then. But it's really funny because when I was younger, my best friends in high school, I remember having this conversation with them. I was always the girl who brought up hypotheticals. I'm like, oh, do you think smacking's okay? They're like, yeah, smacking's fine. They're both mothers now. They don't smack their kids. They don't believe in it. And I'm like, oh, you bailed. You bailed on your thoughts.
Oh, that's okay. Maybe they
Yeah.
might change their mind. I mean, I don't
No,
know.
no, I'm not saying no. My point being, but they did it. They did at the start, but they're happily settled now. But my point being that I don't think my mind will change about this. It's like when people say to me, "You shouldn't have an opinion." Wait, you can't say you'd never have an abortion? I get told this all the time because that's my main topic. You can't say you won't ever have an abortion. What if you were raped? In my head, I think I would keep it. So in my head, I think I would smack my kids. Like I think I'm consistent to that, but I wouldn't just smack them for the hell of it. I would make sure that, like, if the kid had autism or ADD or something, smacking's not going to be enough. Sure, it'll help, but you need to make sure they're eating the right foods and their hormones are not the chemical imbalance, and there's a shitload of context and layers there.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong. If you called me up and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm still spanking my kids," I'm not gonna like. Well, I'm like, God, you're such an abusive parent. I'm not gonna judge you
I
because
wouldn't smack my kids all the time. It'd be a last resort, as I said at the very
But
beginning.
but to be fair,
They
you're part Latina, right? I mean, so you kind of have this like
I'm
genetic.
I'm I'm full Latina.
Oh, Latina. I'm
I'm
sorry.
half Colombian, half Spanish, but
Oh, okay. My
that's
apologies.
yeah. So
You got
Spain is the originators of the Latino people. So full Latina, just two
right.
different types of Latin.
So
Yeah.
just based on that, like you like came born with a slip offable shoe that you can like throw at your kids. Like that
My
comes
mum had done that in the past. She threw shoes at the wall. She never threw them at us, just like to scare us.
just enough to scare, just enough to scare you. Yeah.
Mr. Superman, no home. That's
Wait,
Consuela.
was it okay? Was it like just okay? So was it because she had terrible aim, or was it like you think it was just to scare you?
To scare us.
Okay, good. So you like played catch with your mom a couple times just to test
It
her
was
one. Like, oh,
fun.
okay, yeah.
But we got scared. Like, it's really funny because when I think of my mother now, I think of her as this cute little innocent baby that I want to like hold in my arms. Like my mum is so cute and sweet. And that mother that I had was only existed in the time that I was misbehaving or my sister was misbehaving or my brother was misbehaving. That
Right.
mother was rarely seen. And I think that's the point of parenthood. You wear different hats. You're a chauffeur. You're a spectator. You're a confidence builder. You're a moral light. You're all these different things.
Right. Well, I don't want to lose this in the weeds. The stove,
Smacking, yeah,
the stove,
spanking, yeah.
the stove example. The stove
Oh
example.
yeah, go ahead, go
And
ahead, go ahead.
okay, so you said to me like 10 years old is probably a good age that
I
maybe.
was pulling that out of my ass.
I know you're fine. I'm just trying to like
Even
play.
12, I don't know.
So what I'm wondering is like, is there like, do you think a 10-year-old is intelligent enough to hear arguments or to have it explained to him or her that that stove is hot? You probably don't need to touch that. Do you think 10 years old is old enough that you
Oh,
could
I
just
think 10
explain
years
that? Like,
old, you wouldn't need to smack them. If they were playing with the stove, it's because they're playing with the stove because of the mechanics of it, not because, ooh, fire. The
yeah,
ooh, fire time would be 3, 4. 2,
3 to
3,
4.
4.
So do you think a 3 or 4-year-old is too young to explain it to them?
A little bit, like you
A little
smack
bit.
them, but
So
I
they
also think you let them. Let the kid touch that candle. Let the kid be like, "Oh crap!" Even
experience
a cat knows. I
experience of
remember when we first got our cat. She died 2 years ago. When we first got her, she went to the candle and then she went, like she never went back. She never touched like the flame
cat
again.
cat
So
says,
like
"Hell no."
sometimes,
So I just wonder, like, say you have a 1-year-old, like, first of
yeah.
all, are you smacking that kid for touching the flame?
If that, I think so, but no, maybe you let them. I don't know.
I
I
guess
think
I
you do
guess what I'm
smack the
what I'm
hand out of the way, yes, not smack them for
that's
doing it.
of
No.
course, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is here is, like, at a certain age, like, they're too young to even understand, so becomes
True,
it becomes your responsibility
because you're the
to make
parent.
sure that that kid doesn't have access to a flame. Like, okay, you're like 3 years old. I probably need to make sure and baby proof this and keep you away from this area. Make sure this is, a safe place. Got to make sure I'm watching you and actually paying attention and not scrolling to the bottom of the internet on my phone. Just that's a huge problem. Yeah,
Mhm.
just actually paying attention to the kid. Like, but I'm just saying, at some point, okay, now the kid's starting to get a little older, and it's like, well, at some point, like you keep kind of alluding to, is like experience is the best teacher sometimes. Like if you know
It
your
could be.
I mean, if you know it's kind of just a little flame, it's a little campfire or something, they might get a little ooh, 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 but they're not going to die or nothing. It's a controlled environment. You're monitoring the situation and you're like, okay, well, I mean, if you think you want to play with it, go ahead and play with it. You'll find out real quick. It's not fun to play with. You'll get it.
Indeed.
It's just kind of one of the, take it case by case, kid by kid. Um, but at some point, like, they get to an age where it's like, if they're still playing with fire by the time they're age 10 because they don't understand fire, I would argue that it is the parent's responsibility for not teaching that kid by the time he's 10 that fire is hot, dummy. And
Yeah.
I can't possibly in my mind blame the kid for the lack of the parents
Mhm.
educating the kid on flames, right? So that's what I'm trying to kind of suss out, is like, when is it acceptable? When is it the only tool, or maybe the last tool? Like, what would make it a last resort? I can't find that place. Almost like, it's like, okay, when's the right age to start serving in your military? When's the right age to start drinking? Or when's the right age to start? It's like this kind of like, I don't know. I don't know where that number is, and I'm just always wondering with that with folks.
I can't give you a distinction for that because I don't know when would be right. I think at different ages things just stop. Things just happen to stop. Like at a certain age you don't have to explain certain types of things to kids anymore because they understand, okay, it's bedtime. Like that's it. You have to stay consistent with that. Like, you don't give unless it's like a special occasion. But I think it just works out on yeah, like your parents start to let go and like, oh, you're now a teenager. Maybe it's okay to start letting the kids hang out with friends at the cinemas on their own, and you don't have like I wasn't allowed to do a lot. I know I come from an unusually sheltered environment, so I know that my upbringing is quite different to most people because of the ethnicness and maybe the religiosity of it as well.
Mhm.
Um, and but yeah, you just start letting go bit by bit. I was 16 years old before I was allowed to sleep over at a friend's house. Like,
Oh, look at you, all sheltered and shit.
yeah, the only other time I slept over at anyone's house was a girl from church years earlier and my cousins. So otherwise, sleepovers weren't a thing. Like, yeah, you just let go when you think is the right time. Yeah, that's all I can
That's
say to that.
okay. No, no, I totally get it.
I
That's
can't give you specifics, sadly.
So
Yeah.
what would be another example? Because that's a pretty common example. I hear that one all the time. Like, hey, the kid's going to run in the road, or the kid is going to touch fire. Like, those are decent examples, but I don't think that results in like a punishment of, hey, now I need you to come over here, bend over so I can smack your ass. It's like, I mean,
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. I mean, I just don't know that those situations. Those are kind of emergency situations. Those are kind of like, oh my God, don't touch that. That makes
sure.
sense.
But then
That would
there's
make sense
actual.
with anybody. Like, that would make sense for you and me to do it to each other. Like, there's no immorality there to that, I guess. For me.
I think what you and I agree on, and what most parents would agree on, is boundaries and discipline have to exist. whether it's a smack, whether it's whatever it is. I remember watching an episode of Dr. Phil years ago before he became stupid. And in the episode, they were like, my kid is 15. I can't punish them anymore. What can I do? And he goes, no. He goes, you use the currency you have. He goes, that kid has a door. You remove that door. They don't have a right to their privacy. That kid's going to keep disrespecting you. You remove their mattress. He goes, you just keep punishing. He goes, it's not too late. Yeah. And I agree. Remove that damn door. Remove that damn mattress. You keep on the consistency of discipline, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a smack. My only argument is that I don't think it's evil. Beating is evil. I don't think smacking is, or spanking. Yeah, you use the currency that you have that works. If for them it's playing on the iPad, you do not let them play on the iPad.
Right. Yeah, that has been something that has changed considerably in trying to, I guess, dream up different penalties or consequences. It really is important to tie consequences to actions, and I don't want to forget to mention that. It's like, I don't use spanking as a tool. I don't use yelling as a tool or any kind of...
You don't use yelling?
No, I don't have to.
What do you do? You just sort of
them.
stare them down and they go, ah!
That only works with you, Dia.
Fair.
I can't talk. Listen, guys in the audience.
But we were scared of our dad.
I can't begin to tell you the amount of times I've just called her up and just stared in the phone, and she just you can just see her quivering in her little boots. It's so adorable.
I fear him.
Yeah, she does. She does.
I fear you, Daniel.
The spanker for sure. That's anyway. That's a different show on a different channel, but
adults only.
Stay tuned to our YouTube or our Pornhub channel. Anthony and I have a bunch of content over there, so why not throw you in the mix?
Ooh.
Just kidding.
Threesome.
No, I don't go that way. But no, I want to make sure point out, like, I don't use yelling. I don't use, I don't treat them any way that I wouldn't treat my brother or my grandmother or the clerk at the store.
You should, in my opinion.
I mean, I love them more. I do pay more attention. I do more coaching. I do more guidance. I do more of that for them because they're my kids.
I get it, but but like if you treat them the same, it's like, I don't believe in equality. I don't think it makes sense. I believe you treat everyone to their catered.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about equality.
But you just said you treat them the same as the clerk or as your brother.
I treat them like yes. Yeah, I treat them as I would treat another human being, basically, is what I was getting at.
And I don't think that's...
There's literally no...
I'm saying that doesn't make sense to me. I think you should treat them in a way that is paternal, in a way that caters to them specifically, because obviously you do love them more than, the
I 100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree. I do that, but I mean, I cater it to that, but it's, again, I cater the way I treat the store clerk differently than I would cater to the bank teller.
I would hope so.
That would be grandma. I talk to them a little different, but it's all out of respect. It's all, there's nothing that looks like yelling or being manipulative or hitting, or, I'm not screaming at, again, my grandma because she didn't send me that birthday money this year. It's just not in me to do that. And so if I'm not going to do it with literally anybody else in my world, I'm literally not teaching my kids how the real world works by spanking them. There's no other position.
It's not about that. That's irrelevant because it's because I've already explained the parent-child confine for that time for that period in their life.
But why? That's what I'm wondering. Why?
Because it's in the book of Proverbs.
All right, fair enough. Bible, I get it. See, I guess what I'm getting at is I found that our relationship is much better. Now, I'm not talking about, I don't want people to confuse me with somebody who's just being my kid's friend. I have never acted as
that's not a good idea.
I've never neglected them. I'm not talking about laissez-faire parenting where you just kind of no rules, hands off. No, we still. I've worked really hard to teach them proper boundaries, how to respect people, how to negotiate what you want in a relationship. If there's something that for example, when I was coming up, my dad, if I asked him a question, hey Dad, can I go over to my friend's house? Da, 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 da. He'd say no. And that was the end of the conversation, because once Dad says no, that was it. And if I argued with that, I could get punished. There was no questioning what Dad said, right?
Yeah, because his word is law.
Right. There was no opportunity for me to make my case maybe practice changing someone's mind, right? This is the battlegrounds for practice in that arena, like learning how to negotiate with people. And I have alternately made it where my kids, if like if they make a good sound argument, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
That's my argument to explain.
This Bible thumper over there. We'll get to
I'm a
that.
Bible thumper.
Yeah, hold that thought. So
keep going. So your dad's word was law, yeah.
Right. So now, as I'm coming up, I always hated that. That was one thing I always hated, because it's like, I literally couldn't see any reason why he would say no, except, in my mind, that he was just a jerk. Like, he just doesn't.
Or it was being lazy, or he just didn't want to do it. Or...
He doesn't want to take me over there. He like no.
Just say that, yeah.
Whatever it was no explanation, no reason given, no trying to like say, hey, I would, but I really don't, feel up to it right now, and there was no give and take at all. And with my kids, it's different, because like they'll be like, hey, Dad, can I go over to a friend's house? And I'm like, no, not today. And if they ask me why, I have to give a reason. Like, it's not that much to ask to give a kid a reason why I said no. Like, explain why I said no. And if I can't come up with a good
reason. What do you mean? You're wasting valuable breath and, minutes
on my kids? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah.
I was kidding.
I said no. I got to get back to my TikToks.
Yeah. I have TikTok now.
Yeah, it's just that if they ask me something and I say no, I am not going to now say no to them unless I have a good reason to say no. Otherwise, I'm just like, well, I really don't have any reason to say no. Like, I even though
it's outside, sweetie.
Instinctually, I'm just like, no, but because I just want to protect him and keep him at home all the time. But if I can't come up with a good reason, I'm just like, yeah, I guess that's fine. Just stay safe, do your thing. And if I say no and I have a good reason, that's not the end of the conversation, right? There have been a few times that my kids have been like, hey, well, there's this and this, and what if I do that? And, if I do this chore and that and help you out over here, can I then do it? And I'll be like, yeah, I guess, I might be willing to change my mind, right? It just makes it where the kids understand that there is room to negotiate. There's room to have a little bit of locus of control over their lives, where it's not just like dad lays down rules and that's it and that's final.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with options. Kids need to feel like they have a choice in certain things. I'm not opposed to it.
It's just amazing, because at first, when I first transitioned, it's like it was really hard to let go of that hammer of spanking, like coming up with new ideas and getting used to this new way of. But now it's like, now that we've kind of gotten the practice of it and we've kind of got a better handle of how the house operates, I don't have to do that with them as much, right? I don't even feel the need to spank. There's been no, obviously they're a little older now. My youngest is 15, but there was a certain point where it was like, oh, this doesn't even seem like an option. It's so far outside the realm of necessary that it's like, why would this? Like, I'm not stressed as much. I'm not yelling at my kids. I'm not, it's like I pick and choose what I need to stress about, and we discuss the rest.
For sure.
That's it. And this is stuff that even people who are pro spanking, this is stuff that they can use if they want to maybe do it a little less, right? You don't have to necessarily be anti-spanking or a peaceful parent to implement some of what I'm talking about, right?
Of course, I agree with that.
But I don't know. It's just the relationship with my kids. Before and after pictures are like
pictures of you. Pictures of me.
Sorry. Tell you what, I remember telling I remember this when I first started transitioning over to peaceful parenting, right? I remember
parenting.
Yeah,
it's not violent parenting to smack a child.
Well, technically it is. I mean, your whole purpose is to
beating a child is not
beating
smacking.
is we're talking about matters of degree now, but if your goal is to cause pain, right? Like, obviously we're not talking about the same thing, right?
You need to have discomfort and understanding. Like, pain, punishment has to be a little bit of pain. It doesn't have to be, but it needs to be a level of discomfort and something that you don't want to do without. One could argue that taking away their iPad is very painful to them because they really, 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 really want to play with it. I remember going home from work to a friend's place before we went to gym, and the kid would go crazy if he realized that it wasn't charged. And the mum's like, well, it's your responsibility to charge it. Yep. If it's not working now, you should have made sure. And he'd scream for like 5 minutes until he became distracted with the new toy.
Well, I mean, I would do the same thing. Like, yeah, you should have
Yeah,
charged. That's not my job. Um,
exactly.
I would say like if it comes down to a scenario where the consequence is losing the iPad, what I would have done differently now than I did then is then I would have just been like, all right, you done messed up. Give me the iPad and take it.
Mm. Hmm.
Versus
Physical pain.
setting expectations ahead of time and being like, look, this kind of behavior is unacceptable. If you do that, you know, you're going to lose your iPad. And the kids like, because we're not in a high stress situation, they're like, yeah, I guess that sounds fair. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So then, the expectation's been set, the boundaries have been laid. You go and okay, now the kid's acting up. You're like, okay, we already agreed to this. If you were going to act like that, the iPad goes. So give me the iPad. And you don't have to fight the kid nearly as much in that scenario because they're like, oh yeah, oh damn, I messed up. I done messed up. It's just it's about being not like preventative measures. Like what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? You ever heard that before? Yes.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah, so it's like just being a little prepared or setting expectations ahead of time. Like, listen, we're going to be going over to these friends' our friend's house. These new kids, you've never met them before. This is kind of what's expected of you, and these are the consequences. Or you just talk about it and figure it out ahead of time. Hell, I've even had my kids negotiate their own punishments. Right? It's like, okay, so here's a situation that we've had. I'm really upset that you guys did this. So in the future, if this happens again, what do you think is a fair punishment? And they'll be like, well, maybe I'll lose the internet for a day, or we'll literally sit there and negotiate what the consequence is going to be. So that way I've got the buy-in of the kid. And when it comes down to that time, we're like, listen, this is what we agreed on. And if they don't follow through with that consequence, it's like, okay, so this is what we have in our relationship now. We break our promises. We don't keep our word. We just, do whatever the hell we want to do now. Okay. And the kids, they're really smart. They get this stuff. They're smart as hell. Like, they get it. They're like, oh, okay. I want daddy to keep his promises when he promises to take us to Uncle Pence's animal farm. Thank you, Dane Cook, for that one. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just I've come so far away from it that it's like, it doesn't even seem like a necessary tool anymore. And the fact that it's really kind of weird to spank people and hit them. Like, what was it? What was that Jesus said about the damn it, I'm going to look like an idiot trying to quote Bible scripture to you right now.
I'm not a walking biblical
What is
encyclopedia.
it, the general idea of what you do to the
Spare the rod. Oh, wait, what were you going to say?
to the least of us, you do to us all. That kind of, what is that? I can't remember.
Actually, to be honest, I don't know what you're talking
Someone
about.
help us out. Someone help us out here.
I can look up that phrase and then it'll pinpoint it a little bit up.
Okay.
So what was it? What you do to the least of us? Something will come up.
Yeah. I can't remember. I've heard this said before, and it's like, yeah, that's interesting because
See, I'm a bad Christian.
you need to basically, the idea is you need to treat the weakest and the smallest members of society the way you would treat anybody else. Like how you treat them is how you treat everybody. Right?
Sounds a little socialist to me. What do you? And then all right, Jesus. Truly, I tell you, whatever you do for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So if you're kind to someone, like your neighbor, then you're being kind. Is that what you're?
Yeah. What you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me. Like, yeah, if you want to live by my example, do act respectfully to people that aren't just me. Don't just be nice to just me. Be nice to everybody, even the least of it. And
Yeah,
like,
well, that's a good philosophy overall.
Where in
It's
what
kind of like do unto others.
Like, it's just it makes me wonder, like, in what position is the power dichotomy so different, vastly different than that of the parent-child relationship? Like, even the like CEO secretary power dynamic isn't as wide a gap as the parent to child gap.
The parent is supposed to be, without making it sound overboard, the ruler of the home. Like, I don't mean it like literally like how I'm saying, but today the parent is losing pretty much all their rights, and now a 6-7-year-old who doesn't know whether touching the fire is good or bad is in charge of their own sexual gender identification. Like,
you're not
I
going to
think
find
parents need their rights back.
Yeah, you won't
I'm not
find
a
any.
parent, and I think you agree. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, 100%.
yeah. Parents are losing their rights, and I don't like it.
And I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Is like I
Yeah.
do want to make sure to point out like that's something very very important in this discussion. Is like for me as an anarchist, I would never ever advocate for the government to be in control over whether parents have the right to spank their kids or not. Right. Like I'm not, I would never like be like, okay, I don't think spanking's allowed, so I am going to vote for the guy who's going to make it illegal to spank your kids. Like that would never be an option for me, not at all.
That's a single issue vote anyway. But yeah,
but you get what I'm saying. I'm not going to, vote to have you thrown in jail for abusing your kid, essentially, which I find
which is not abuse. Yeah, well,
right.
I come from a state. I'm not in that state right now, but I come from a state where if I had a son who ended up being gay, or at least was having the questions,
yeah,
and I said to him, "No, sweetheart, you are exactly as God made you. Not, or say he wanted to transition to female, and I tried to convince him otherwise. Just that conversation would have me put in jail."
Yeah, that is 100% unacceptable.
Yeah, and I know that you and I are quite different when it comes to that, but I know that you and I agree on the overall outcome, that like that questioning it and the conversation of it obviously shouldn't lead to prison.
Yeah, and if I think spanking's wrong, I'm going to do exactly what we're doing right now. Like you and I are going to talk. It may not be on a live format, but you and we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk, and I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. I'm going to be like, here's my reasons why I don't think it's good or right or moral or whatever the argument is. I'm going to feel responsible for having that discussion with you. But to have the power of the state come in and be the ones to arbitrate who gets to do what and how in their own house, no, unacceptable.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last 2 and bit years have shown us that the government really does want to control our bodies, and they want to mandate what liquids we should have put in our bodies and what dosage and how many we should have, all that kind of garbage. And I'm completely with you that the government should not have that type of control. It's different with abortion, but I think it's the same with smacking, having a parent being jailed because they don't want their kid to be transgendered, all that kind of stuff. I think I'm consistent with.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to figure out something here, and it's not working.
Right.
Never mind. Okay. Leave it alone, Daniel. Stop playing with it. Sorry. This is the beauties of trying to produce a show while having the conversation at the same time. You don't want to come over and be the producer for the Unframe of Mind show, do you?
I need a ticket. I need the money, and I need to be vaxxed.
I'll see what I can do. I have a loft you can sleep in, so it's fine.
Great.
We'll put you up. We'll feed you. And you'll be fine. Might even
You're
find
in Michigan, right?
No. Might even find you a good American man. You don't want to be in Michigan.
Where are you? You're in Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Okay, I don't know why I thought Michigan.
I don't know. Might be
I don't know why I thought that.
I got family in
I don't know what Michigan even is. Like, I don't know why I thought that. I just assumed you were from Michigan. I don't know what the accent is there, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't really have one.
You have an American accent.
Yeah, it is American, but it's not specific to any particular region because of all the moving that I did.
You're a little more southern. You're not as southern as Dr. Phil, but there's a southernness.
That's because currently,
slight.
That's because currently I'm living in the South, so I'm picking up a lot of those types of mannerisms.
Yeah. Well, I do declare.
Wow, you went straight up antebellum South, didn't you?
I know, it's like Gone with the Wind.
Back in the day. All right.
And I can say one word like a black person.
What?
Bedroom.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Because I don't say the D's. Bedroom. It's the one word I can say that I think sounds a little black.
That was very good. Very good.
Thank you. That's...
Yeah, my Wichita fan would be proud. Yeah. So yeah. Is there any other points you want to make?
Oh my gosh, Reviler! Hey.
I haven't seen that fella in a while.
Another Reviler. as in I spoke to him like maybe 2 weeks ago, but I haven't seen him
Hops in the
on a
middle of
live.
nowhere for sure.
Yeah. In terms of the smacking children or spanking children discussion, I think you and I agree on the essentials. Children need boundaries. Children need discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Where you and I differ is the actual smacking part, spanking part. But I only think if I am a mother that I would smack my kids at the very, very last moment. I think I would use other avenues, and then if they kept going, it'd be like, I remember my auntie who never smacked us, but my auntie used to do this to us, like if we were naughty, and I'd be, ah, and then we wouldn't do the thing that she thought we were going to do.
It's like I'm gonna
Yeah.
chop you in the neck.
This, for some reason, this meant goodbye, Charlie. That's the phrase she'd use, goodbye, Charlie. And I'm like, I don't know now looking back on it, I'm not really sure what that means. But yeah, like Colombians.
All you knew is you were terrified.
Yes. So yeah, but I do believe that society would be a far better place if there were more fathers in the home, less neglect, and more smacking and boundaries. Smacking is an interchangeable word for whatever discipline you deem fit that works. It has to work. If it doesn't work, then your punishment of the child is irrelevant because it's not working and you're not being consistent.
I guess what would be a how would you know it worked? I guess is the question.
The kid does it. You know, you pop that kid at the bottom of the stairs for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they stay there, and then they say, I'm sorry, mommy, I'm sorry, daddy. And then you play your family game after, or you continue the family movie after, or whatever. That's how you know it works. And it has to be consistent. Otherwise, you're all over the shop.
You're gonna find me really weird that I don't use grounding either. No timeout.
What do you do? How do you punish your child?
I literally don't have to.
It's any wonder your children. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know.
No. Yeah, I've
smack them with stone paddles.
So here's the thing. Like we've already discussed like setting expectations ahead of time, and that usually seems to work for the most part. Only very rarely.
I can only take your word for it. I don't have anything to compare that to.
Again, different kids are different. I get it, but for my kids, it just seemed to work pretty well. Far as that, for the most part, like I don't know, like for.
Are all your children soulless? By which I mean redheaded.
I know what you mean. I have two.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you. Yeah, it's two redheads.
Two redheads. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you knew what I meant. Like, she's paying out my kids.
Yeah, they're great kids, and
I know. I've seen them in the background when you're setting up your studio. They're very helpful of you.
I'm trying to think of okay. So one example of a punishment that did get used.
Okay.
Is when I first started, I'm like when you first start, you're trying to eliminate that hammer that you have called spanking. Like when everything's a nail,
you're trying to let it go,
and all you have is a hammer. Like that was my parenting tool. Like I would yell and raise my voice, and I was a big scary dad. So when I first started, I would go and my oldest daughter, she would always be trying to use my tools, and she would never put them back where they belonged, right? And she wouldn't ask me to use my tools. She just used them, and I'd have to go like on a hunt for them. Like, all right, who's got my damn, whatever screwdriver now? And I'd find it in her room, and it'd be like, okay, now listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. So I have to start thinking outside the box, right? I've now put away that hammer called spanking. I'm like, I'm not going to use it anymore. What else can we do? It really opens up. I'm telling you, when you start retraining your mind to start thinking of alternative solutions, it really does change the way.
But you don't ground the kid. You don't put them in timeout. You just have a conversation with them. Is that literally what you're saying?
I'm going to explain the conversation.
All right, hurry up. Stop building it up. Just say
it. Sorry. I don't mean to be storyteller. I can't help it. So I go in and I'm like, listen, here's the deal. You keep borrowing my tools. I don't mind if you borrow them, but ask me first.
Of course.
And you would like it if I asked you if I wanted to borrow something of yours, right? And she's like, yeah, I would. So listen, I need you to ask me if you're going to borrow my stuff, and I need you to put it back when you're done. Okay. And she's like, okay. And I said, no, I can't remember exactly how it was. It was something like, if this happens again, if you borrow my stuff without asking, or I'm going to come borrow something of yours. Does that sound fair? And she's like, yeah, that sounds fair. Like, I mean, who wouldn't say that sounds fair? That's logical. So lo and behold, being a kid, it wasn't like a week later, she goes and borrows a tool, without asking. And
Yeah.
bedroom, right? So guess what I did? I went and she had just got this pair of Sperry's. You remember those boat shoes that everybody was like so crazy about? They're called Sperry's, right? She just got them. They were like $80, the most expensive shoes she's ever had. And she loved them. She just spent her Christmas money on them and got them. They were like her favorite shoes ever. I go in her bedroom and I take one of her Sperry's and I just go put it somewhere. Well, later that day, she comes home and she's like, "Oh my God, I can't find my other Sperry's." She's wanting to wear them. She's like, "I can't find it. Has anybody seen it?" It's like, I'm like, "Yeah, I might have borrowed it." And
What
it
did
was,
she do?
dude, as soon as I saw that, you could see that like those gears ticking in
The
her head.
cogs were,
Like
yeah.
that light bulb just clicked on, like, oh, that's what that feels like. Okay. Like she got it, like just instantly. It was like so immediate. And
Okay,
from
well,
that,
that's not technically a punishment. That's sort
well,
of like
it was like,
that's like clever psychology teaching something of an equal thing. If she
it's
did
a
something
constant.
bad, like if you had gotten home and there was the home had been vandalized by her and two friends or something, what would you have done then? Would you have vandalized her room? Like what like how what you've described is sort of a like to like, a like for like that makes
Right.
sense.
It's just
Okay,
called a.
what if she actually was bad? She did
Okay.
something bad. What would you do?
All
Say
right. So
she's
let me.
vandalized the kitchen when you and your wife are not home or something because it was just a drunk, silly moment.
So let me finish up what I was saying. There is
Okay, sorry.
once that light bulb clicked, I had zero issues out of her with that particular topic ever
Well,
again.
that's good.
Ever again.
And that's good.
And
I
what I
think
want,
that's
I know what you kept calling it, like a like for like or whatever, but what I'm calling it is a consequence to her actions. It's
sure.
tying the consequence to the action, and in a something that makes sense to the action. It's that was kind of an easy one, right? It honestly, it wasn't that easy back then because I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And that was what I came up with. So it was really weird.
I
Um,
think that's smart parenting. I actually find that really smart. But what if they're bad?
okay, so
Because
yeah, to get to that,
we
what
do
if they're
bad
bad?
things.
So
I've done bad things.
all right, so let's say I come home and my kitchen has been vandalized.
Mhm. And you know that it was her because I don't know, you just
Right.
do.
Yeah. I just know it was her. Let's see. How would I handle that? First of all, I'd be really upset. I'd be like, all right,
As
who the
rightfully so.
hell vandalized my kitchen? Why the hell did you do this? Would be another question. We'd be having a hell of a conversation.
Mhm.
I think we'd be discussing like how we're going to go about cleaning this up. That's kind of a little mental trick called speaking past the sale. Not are you going to clean this up or you're going to clean this up, but more like how do you plan on cleaning this up, right? It's
Yeah.
it's very subtle, but it is a difference. I think we would go with that. It really depended. I like to take again. It's going to be moment by moment. It's going to be issue by issue, case by case. What is it that she's? That's a
See,
tough.
it's different because it's actually bad behavior. Like
Right.
it's
No,
kind
no.
of different
It's
to
a tough.
borrowing something.
It's a tough one. Well, it's a tough one insofar as I don't have any more context to go off of. I would want to know why she's doing it. Like I'd be like, because that seems so that would seem like this like say I come home today and that was like that. It would be so far outside of their personality. Like something has gone wrong. Something's changed. Like you're clearly suffering with something. Something happened to you. Something has happened at school. You're acting out. Like those would be the first few things that would come to my mind. And without talking to her and figuring it out, like if she just says, "Nothing happened. I just felt like tearing up your fucking kitchen. What are you gonna do about it?"
Which I actually do, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's so far outside,
Yeah.
you know. But it's kind of like any of these other discussions that we've had. It's like nobody talks about all of the steps that led up to that moment, like all of the past behaviors that have led up to that moment. Like
Yeah, someone might have put something in a drink and made it go insane or something. Like
hell, it could have been that.
there's
Yeah,
so many
that
pieces
could
of
have happened.
context that you could add to that. Yeah.
I don't know. I would be like immediate. Like if it happened today at the age she's at, I walk in my kitchen, that's happening. I would be deeply concerned first. I'd be like, what happened? Are you
Mm.
okay? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, this is so far outside of the norm. Like, I don't, because you're talking about a baseline behavior versus this. It's so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how I would react. I would probably not treat her any different than I would treat, a friend of mine that came over and did
Did
that. And
that.
except the only difference is like if it's my friend, I'm like, dude, just you need to get out of my house. Don't bother coming back. Like, especially if he's
Yeah,
like not
until they're
showing
back
any
to normal.
remorse. He's not offering any like reasonable explanation. Like you can't come back. But that's where my kids kind of get a little different. They get a little more leeway.
Of course.
One of the things that I was dealing with one of my kids was constant lying
Oh, sure.
for a while. You know
Thou
more.
shalt not lie.
Yeah, we've spoken behind the scenes, so you know a lot more details.
I won't divulge. Yeah. But like, of
But
course, kids
basically,
lying. A lie is a lie. Like that is annoying for a parent to deal with.
right.
Of course.
Just for context, like this is how I do treat my kids a little different because I owe them this much because I am their guide. I'm their counselor. I'm the guy that's supposed to get them across the finish line into adulthood to be somebody that they'd be glad to meet. Right. That's kind of what I view as my goal. It's like I want to raise you to be somebody you're glad I raised you to be, if that makes sense. And I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Oh, lying. Right. That's one of the things that I treat them differently in is like she had a history of lying. If like say you and I were in a conversation and I caught you lying multiple times, I would just probably ghost you. I wouldn't even talk to you. Like I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you a friendship. I don't owe you anything. Like you're just a friend that was a friend that's now a liar in my books. Like
Plus, I'm like over like the ocean anyway. You wouldn't lose anything
well,
from not talking to me
you know what I
again.
mean. I would miss you dearly. I love you.
you
But
you were my. For those who don't know, he was my very first YouTube friend. Yeah.
So I'll go and I will give an area of forgiveness for my kids that I won't allow for other people, right? That's something that they're still
Absolutely. That's
young, they're
just
still
a gift.
growing, right? They're still learning. I'm like, you're okay, you're a teenager, you're gonna lie. This, you're testing your waters, whatever. I give them room to, what's the word? What's the word?
To make mistakes, give them room to.
When you forgive somebody, when you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, but I
Make,
don't know what word you're
make
looking for.
recompense, or what's the word I'm looking for? I lost the word. So stupid.
Oh, redemption? Redeem themselves?
Redemption. Yeah, redeem themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that nowadays you don't see at all in the social media
No,
sphere.
you don't.
If you tweeted the wrong thing 10 years ago, like
Oh, you're dead. Kevin Hart. He couldn't host the Oscars because of something he wrote, 10 years ago? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's grab a comment here. Reviler White says, Daniel,
You know him. I know him.
Promote these better. I have no investment in the future, but violence in moderation for a greater sense of instillment, pertinent to love and discipline, is indeed apropos.
Remember, he's a nihilist.
I am aware. Like, first of all, that is a lot of multi-syllabic word salad for me.
He's very wordy.
I do not have the
vocabulary.
No, I
energy.
don't have the vocabulary. Don't insult me.
I wasn't trying. I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Or I don't have any need to try to translate that right now. I don't know what these.
Do you think violence in moderation makes sense? Like a lot of the this is beyond smacking and spanking now, but a lot of the freedoms that we have now in the United States, all I can think of, I was talking about Gone with the Wind earlier. The Civil War, I'm assuming, is what it was, and America is what it is now. Well, I wouldn't say right now with the Biden stuff, but as in the freedoms that you have is because blood had to be shed. I think the French Revolution has similar things, and then like the Catholics versus the Muslims, with the Spanish with the Catholic War and stuff. Like sometimes violence has needed to exist, right?
Okay, so my take on violence is I'm not.
Hey, Reviler, can you stop being a dick to my friend? Sorry, keep going.
He's fine.
Is he fine? Okay, as long as you're not offended.
Why would I care? Like it's like water off a duck's back. I don't care.
Okay, good.
Apparently, I'm a communist status cuck regarding child discipline.
You're a cuck.
Ironically, I'm an anarcho-communist or anarcho-capitalist.
You are an anarchist, yes.
Anarcho-capitalist, but that's cool. Whatever. Yeah, my take on violence. I would say I am a big fan of self-defense. Obviously, I think violence has its place in that realm. As far as initiating violence, I think the initiation of violence is immoral, no matter what, and that includes spanking kids. Like, I think that is the initiation of violence. If your goal is to cause pain, that is violence. That's it's a degree. It's a lesser degree than beating. Obviously, we're not talking about that. We're just trying to kind of define it. But there's nothing the kid can do that you would consider that to be self-defense. Like the kid's not attacking you. The kid's not coming after you with a
No, of
chainsaw.
course.
The kid's
So
just
you're
doing something, and you are initiating violence on that child, right?
sorry, I don't mean to turn the conversation into something completely different, but by that statement,
Yeah.
you're pro-life, correct? Because
Uh,
there's nothing more violent than a child being sucked up into a catheter or being dismembered with a forceps in the womb. You
right.
would agree that that's violent, right?
Same with the spanking issue. I don't believe abortion is acceptable or
Okay, good. I wasn't sure whether you're
like I,
pro-life because I've asked you this
it's not.
question before, and you're a little bit
Yeah,
wish-washy on it,
it's
but you're
not.
not now. Okay.
I used to be more wishy-washy, but
You did years ago. Yeah, you were. Not now, it seems.
um
That's cool.
yeah,
You've had an evolution.
right. No, for sure. I do. Once in a while, I grow and I think about things. And I learn new
I'm
things.
glad you're pro-life. Yay!
So the thing about that is, just like the spanking issue, like I don't think the state has any role in dictating what people do with their bodies. Which sounds
It's not
completely.
your body. It's
Wait,
a completely separate body with
I
separate
agree.
genes.
I 100% agree. I 100%
Okay.
agree. But then again, as an anarchist, you're not gonna. There's state doesn't have a role. Period. Um, what I would do is try to turn people's attention toward all of the multitude of choices that were made up to the point where you came to once you come to a point where it's like, hey, do I abort or not abort? Like we've already like bypassed so many other like crossroads, right? There's so many other decisions that were made. And I wrote an article about this. You can find it at unframeofmind.com/choices.
Conversations without a condom.
Yes. /choices. That is an article about how you can be pro-life and pro-choice. And yes, it's funny, and
Don't confuse yourself. Don't become Tommy Lahren.
I kind of have a little bit of levity in there, but as the article goes on, it does get more and more serious. And eventually, at the very end, you're like, "Oh, okay, I see." There's a shit ton of choices that were made to get you to that point, and we're not discussing any of those as a society. That's a problem. But
abstinence,
yeah,
adoption.
absolutely, yeah. If you're gonna make a decision to
What are the other
do the
choices?
nasty, you have to. It's the same theme with my parenting. You need to learn to suffer the consequences of your actions, and the consequences need to be tied to your actions. So if your actions are I'm gonna have sex, your consequences are I'm probably going to get pregnant. And you need to learn to deal with those consequences. And as a society, we've had our consequences completely covered over with welfare money. Like it's just we don't suffer the consequences of our actions. We just don't. And as a
That's why
result,
I'm
you don't have
Roe v.
anybody.
Wade was
Sorry, let me finish.
overturned.
That you don't have
Sorry.
that person who like everybody points to and goes, "Hey, you don't want to end up like such and such over there, do you? You probably want to go ahead and not be like just throwing your vagina out there, for all to see all the time."
Yeah.
The
Don't throw your vagina.
Saboteur's Guide says, "Were either of you spanked or abused as children?"
I was smacked. I was spanked.
So yeah, we talked about.
I wasn't abused. I wasn't sexually abused. I wasn't abused in any sort of way. Some say that there was an element of abuse to my childhood because, but I don't think I was abused in any way. Absolutely. I don't think being overly overprotected and being overly sheltered equals abuse, but some people have said that I might have been abused in that sense, but I don't think I was.
That's where I don't know if you would see. I don't
People
know.
say that I was. People say, and other family members say that I was emotionally abused by the father that I have, based on his inability to be sort of social, and I think that explains why I'm so retarded sometimes socially as well. But I don't think I was abused, especially and because the topic of what we're talking about is spanking. I was not abused as in the spanking sense. My dad never touched us. My mother was the one doing it, smacking us. And as I said earlier, my dad, he just said something with an angry look, and we'd be scared. Like he didn't need to smack us. Whereas our mother, who is so gentle and little and cute and Colombian and precious, and she did spank us for the wrong that we committed in that moment, and then it was all over once. But then it was all over after 5 minutes, and it's like, sorry, mommy, and yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was also
What's the answer to your for you?
yeah,
Were
yeah.
you
It's
abused?
my answer. Yeah, I was also, which we answered this a little bit at the beginning, but that's okay.
Yeah, but they must have just tuned in.
Right. So I was spanked as a child as well. But I had various implements used on me between belts and
Likewise.
paddles, and I had a ping pong paddle broke across my ass one time, and
Oh,
I was
ow!
a terror as a child. Apparently, turns out,
I've met your mum.
yeah, my
Sorry.
mom is amazing. My mom's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
she's cute.
I remember one time, one specific, very two. Let me throw two moments. One moment was when I was getting ready to get spanked, and I was doing something or getting, basically the threat was, hey, we're about to get spanked. Go pick out a belt from your papa's closet. And you opened up, like, it's the old go out in the yard and pick a switch off a tree kind of thing, right?
It's like choosing your own punishment.
Right. No, it's like so you go in there, you open up this closet door, and I've never, like, I don't think Walmart has this many leather belts. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, how many different various belts this guy had.
The
Like,
good old days.
buckles of various sizes and whatnot. And yeah, so that wasn't great. That was terrifying. But
Indeed.
I see. Here's the thing. You said it makes sense if it works, but here I am years and years later, and the other example I'm about to tell you is the same thing. Here I am years and years later. I could not tell you for the life of me what I even did that day to deserve that. I have no idea what. There's nothing in my mind tying the punishment with the action. Like, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know what it was for. Right?
That's a good thing then.
I'm
Like,
sure.
I
I'm sure I
don't
stopped the
remember.
behavior in that moment, but
Yeah.
I didn't learn a lesson there, right? I didn't learn a lifelong, like, lesson
I
here.
don't think every disciplinary action needs to reside in a lifelong lesson. It's like, you did what? This is a punishment that I had as a kid. One time, for whatever reason, my sister and I decided to pour petrol on my auntie's cup
That's
where you
gasoline.
park.
That's
Gasoline. Sorry,
for
everyone.
you Americans.
Yes, gasoline. We poured gasoline for whatever reason of the lawnmower all over the driveway. I don't
Yeah.
even know why we did it, but we did it. My auntie was like, "Why does it smell like petrol or gasoline?" Porque huele a gasolina is what she said, something like that. And then I'm like, "Oh, because we poured it all there." And then she watered it down, and then we got smacked for it. We should have been. There's no lifelong lesson there. It just, don't pour gasoline onto concrete. Like, it doesn't serve a purpose. And we got smacked, me and my sister, and as well as we should have. And we didn't do it again, and it was done. And
I
then
just,
my uncle was watering down the driveway with the hose.
good Lord. I just don't understand what was the, what did you do wrong? I mean, yeah, you just poured petrol. There was no reason for that, I guess, but what was actually, like, the crime there? What
I guess because there was a barbecue that day.
Mm-hmm.
And what if someone had, like, lit a match and then, like, flicked it?
Oh my God, what an awesome learning opportunity that would have been. Hey, hey, little shits, look here. That's dangerous, and here's why. I'm not gonna smack you, but I'm gonna show you what could have happened. And you put it in a controlled environment and be like, throw a match to that, and those kids will go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, no, we were smacked for it.
Yeah, you'll get that message real quick in your head when you see that visual of that cloud burst. Like, oh shit! First time you get too close to some gas fumes with a match, and you lose some arm hairs. Like, you learn real quick.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's not abusive. Like, what I went through was not abuse. It was, we were smacked because we did something wrong and we never did it again. And boom, I see how you parent. I understand now that, like, yeah, you're like, well, what was wrong with that? Yeah, you're very different to the old fashioned thinking, let's say.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's not like you were out in the driveway, like, knocking down old ladies with baseball bats.
No,
right?
yeah, that's proper bad. Yeah,
that might be a little different, but maybe. But now we're trying to defend an old lady in that case. That now we're talking about self defense.
Yes.
That's a whole different thing. No, I was the other scenario that I was going to tell you about when I was younger. I'm literally, like, getting spanked again. I can't remember what for. It's with a belt. My mom is wailing. I'm bent over grabbing my ankles, which is humiliating to begin with. Again, I don't remember what I was even in trouble for. But I remember I was at that age where it was like, okay, I'm kind of growing up now, and it hurts, but I'm tough now. I can pretend like this isn't affecting me. So I didn't cry. I was, like, purposely, like, showing no reaction. Like, okay, do your thing, fucking finish up and go on about your business. Well, it was about that time. I'm like 3 or 4 whacks in, and I'm like, all of a sudden, my mom gained the strength of like 10 men, and I'm like, and I stood up so fast, grabbing my eye, turn around, and somehow my dad, like a fucking ninja out of the bushes, came up and took the belt from my mom mid swing, and he took a swing, and made sure that that lesson was being taught. I guess I don't know exactly, but boy, did that! Oh my god, he was still strong enough to hurt me. She was not. She was losing her grip on her power, and that was her currency, like what you were in your Dr. Phil example. That was what she had to use. But it wasn't going to work anymore because I'm getting stronger and I'm getting bigger, and that's why spanking doesn't work after a certain age. And that's always the interesting question. If spanking worked, why do you keep having to do it? Oh, I lost your volume somewhere. I don't hear you. So I believe I'm going to grab a comment while she figures out her sound issue. Saboteur's Guide says abortion is child abuse. Yeah, technically, yeah, absolutely, it is child abuse of the smallest kind. All right, so Reviler says grabbing ankles sounds like Pride Month in Tel Aviv. Oh, that's so hot. So hot. I'll tell you what. Yeah, there's quite a few times I remember. You know,
Can you hear me?
there you go. Yep, you came back.
Okay.
I remember bending over bare bottom, even having my ass beat with something. I remember my dad being so. See, now when I was younger, I never viewed this as abusive or anything, and even now, I don't necessarily view it as abusive as much as.
I don't want to do that.
It's more.
That's so stupid. Oh, looking back now, I think I was raped that time. You know,
Oh no,
I
no,
think I was raped that time in the bushes when that guy came on to me. But you know, rape, regret. Like I think I was abused, but I'm not sure if I was abused. Come on.
That's not what I'm doing. What I'm trying.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say to you. I have heard that before, and that's hilarious. But no,
Yeah.
when looking back now, what I see is parents who were younger, didn't know any better, were trying to figure the shit out themselves, didn't necessarily have the vast expanses of internet and podcasts and other voices to listen to teach, like what some alternative methods. They're just giving what they got.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And the reason I'm able to do that is because I spoke with my parents about my childhood, which a lot of folks can't do this. I went back and spoke with my parents about my childhood. I talked to them.
I do that with my mom, not
right.
with my dad so much.
And I'm like, yeah, like that was, I don't agree with how you handled this and that, and they actually listen. They'll hear my arguments. They'll hear what I have to say. Why is that funny to you?
Sorry, because it's so mean. I'm thinking of something that I said to my mom literally while you're talking, and it's quite mean of me to bring it up to her. But sorry, keep going.
Okay, so
it's just it's triggering a memory. That's all. Yeah.
Right. So I'm sitting here and I'm talking with them, and what I've noticed is they've actually taken some of what I said to heart, and they have. I don't know if it's necessarily because of something I said. I'd like to think it is, but it might also be that they're getting old and tired of parenting. So, but my younger siblings are not getting treated the same way I was. Not even close.
Of course not.
It's night and day. Like
my sister got it worse. I got it like less, and then my brother got it less. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah, and there is some of that, but yeah, when you talk to your mom and she's like, "Oh, that actually makes sense. That's very good, interesting point." Like, okay, and like we can have the conversation, and they don't start getting defensive. Like most parents are going to get like defensive when you try to approach them about this, and they're like, "Well, I did it because this and this," and they try to justify everything they did. But no, my mom was like, "Yeah, we fucked up. We should not have done that. That was so stupid." And
yeah, my mom says the same about the shoes.
About the shoes.
Throwing the shoes. I'm like, Mom, remember when you used to like throw shoes at us? She's like, no, I only did it one time, and it was just to get attention. Like she feels so bad. Like it's so mean that like I'm like, hey, Mom, remember that time you did this? It's so mean. That's why I was laughing earlier.
Does anybody have any questions or arguments for or against spanking? Why it's okay? Why it's not okay?
I don't think it's okay to smack children, as in like babies. I wouldn't smack a baby.
I wouldn't smack.
Unless they were gonna like touch a flame or something. But yeah.
Yeah, don't smack babies, Dia. That's not cool.
Don't smack babies. I think they're
So we can
gay.
agree on don't smack babies and don't smack people 18 and over, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we
Well,
also agree
I've already got you so close to not spanking. We just gotta work on that like age 3 to 17, and we'll be good.
Yeah, but I mean, truth be told, if my future children, God willing, I have them pour gasoline on the ground, I might smack them for that. I might use that as a learning opportunity. Like, look what will happen. I'll be like, why the hell did you do that?
You know, why? What is wrong with you? Yeah.
Like, wow, they're my
What the
kids.
hell is wrong with you?
So weird.
So can you? Okay, so I've noticed that in the number of the examples I brought up, you're like, oh, those are really cool ideas. Would you be willing?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, would you be willing to at least try everything in your power? Like use your logic and your brain and try to come up with alternative solutions and literally mean what you say when you say that is a last resort, 100% last resort.
I do think it's a last resort. I will stick with that. I think it's very good to do what you do in that you make them think about, like I said, like for like, you said consequences for
Yeah, suffering the consequences of your actions.
Yes, I think all of that makes sense. Now, if my son is, I don't know, throwing stuff at his sister and she ends up bleeding or something and actually does something that physically harms her, I would absolutely try to be consistent with an actual punishment and not just talk them around it. Do you see why that wasn't nice of you to, throw a blade at your sister that now she's bleeding? I would pop him somewhere and be like, you're staying here for this amount of time and blah, blah, blah. And then, he, like there are times that I think if you're physically hurting someone else, or like what you said before about the old lady getting like someone hurting an old lady that they don't even know, and like there needs to be punishment and discipline, and then there's space and room for your creative conversations as well.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. I don't have all the answers here. I don't know. I'm
obviously not. Nor do I.
I'm playing this like, I know that kind of goes without saying, right? I'm kind of playing this case by case, of course. And I'm sitting here like when you brought that up, I thought of an example like when I was pro spanking, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, where my kid was biting me or another kid or something. I can't remember who he was biting.
How little were they?
Probably, gosh, it's so long ago. Probably 4 or 5, maybe. Maybe
old enough to know that biting.
Yeah, old enough to know.
Not like a 2-year-old, like, ouch, Charlie, that hurt.
Yeah. So,
so cute.
I know that. So that was.
That's remember, different. Those two brothers.
I remember my instincts, and what I acted out on was I bit him back. Like I didn't know what else to do. I'm like,
what did he do?
Oh, you cried like, ow, that hurt. Like, why would ow?
And then never did it again.
And no, I didn't like bite to leave marks or
no, that's fine. I didn't assume that.
Put your teeth on his arm a little bit and kind of give him a little what he gave, and you're like, see, it hurts, like that empathy thing. I don't know how I would have handled that. I really don't. I'm open. I'm always open to hearing ideas. Like, what do you do if your kid is biting another kid in a realm of peaceful parenting? Like, what do you do about that situation when you don't have that tool called spanking to what do you do?
It's
like
consistent. I just think it's just consistent discipline. That's how I see it. It's consistent, and at some stage, you'll stop biting. At some stage, you'll stop doing the evil, the wrong, or the evil, like the wrong.
Gotcha. So welcome to the show, Billy. I got we just interviewed her last night for.
Oh, did ya? Lovely.
Yeah, she is amazing. Absolutely.
I'll take your word for it. She's very pretty.
Stay tuned for that. So she says, as I mentioned when we talked last night, I remember getting spanked a few times. It wasn't to hurt me, nor was it done with anger. It was to get my attention, and I never did whatever it was that got me spanked again. But I agree with you, Daniel. This comment's longer than the thing would allow, so hold on, let me find it again. I agree with you, Daniel. If you spank over and over again for the same issue, it's clear it's not working, and for some other form of discipline needs to come into play.
She's contradicted herself in that phrase, though. In that very paragraph.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
She has in fact contradicted herself because she said she didn't do it again. So it does work, but then she's saying later on that it doesn't. So
she said later if it doesn't work. She said it's clear that if it's not working.
Oh, okay.
True I think that's what she meant. If it's not working, it's time to try something different, right? I believe that's what that meant.
No, you're probably right. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
just
and I
I
hate
was just being critical for the sake of this
Oh,
conversation because that's
absolutely.
what
You're
we're
doing fine.
doing.
You're doing great. No, no. And Billy, I'm glad you joined us. You missed about an hour and a half of us already discussing this
Yeah, we're
issue.
pretty much finished. We're pretty much
Yeah,
rolling up now.
we're fixing to wrap it up now. But yeah, definitely go back and watch the rest of it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and see if anything.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. See, sometimes I
But she's still crediting my argument. It worked for her.
no,
Sorry,
no.
what were we gonna say? Sometimes
She would probably agree with you 90% of what we've said, or maybe even more. I don't know.
no, but she agrees with you, and
Right.
so do I. I actually agree with you that there are other ways, and that yeah, of course there are other ways.
Yeah, I guess my goal for this conversation is just to encourage people, like, if you're not going to put that tool away completely, at least like put it far enough away where there's other alternatives you can try before you resort to that, right? I mean,
Yeah, remove the door,
at least try.
remove the mattress.
I think just at least moving in that direction, like, we can make society a better place. Just like every time we make government a little bit smaller, we make the world a better place, right?
Oh,
It's
absolutely,
kind of that saying, like,
absolutely.
I'm never going to be able to convince everybody at all the time to, like, hey, you should probably not hit your kids. It's immoral as hell. Like, you would never do that to anybody else. Why would you do it to your kids? It's not. It doesn't click with other people the same way it did for me, but it clicks with some people. Or like in our conversation, you're like, hey, those are really cool ideas. Like, I could at least try those. I think a lot of people are open to alternatives. Like you said, I don't want to hit my kids, but
No, you do it. No, you don't want to do it. You do it
right.
because that's it. It's just the done thing. It's biblical for one reason, and it shows love. The Bible verse itself says if you don't punish your child, you don't love your child. Like a just judge
That's
does a
not what it says.
punishment.
That's not what it said.
Let me read it to you.
It said, spare
It's
the
not.
rod, spoil the child. That doesn't say the same thing as what you
Excuse
just.
no. Let me read it to you because you're being a dick now.
I'm always being a dick, okay? Don't
I
just
know, but I still love you.
yes now.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me find it. Oh, okay. It's Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him. So chasteneth meaning to chastise.
Chastise.
So
Right.
yeah,
Get on
I'm
to it.
not.
Get on to
I
him,
know.
right?
Let me use a different English for those who might not like the
No, I
the
got it.
English that I chose. Oh, you understood? Okay, cool.
Don't
So
don't
yeah,
insult my audience. Or are you just trying to insult me?
I'm sorry. It's just I've been raised reading Old English. Like I don't think
Right.
other people have.
Okay, to chastise someone, I agree with that. Like
Yeah,
if
but
somebody's done wrong, you need to like point it out to them. Like, you did wrong. Here's why. That makes sense. That's something that I think everybody should do, especially as a parent. Guide your kids.
yes,
Don't just neglect your kids. And that rod that's being referred to was the shepherd's rod, which is not used to hit the sheep. It's
I
used to
don't think.
it's used to guide the sheep into the location where they're supposed to go.
But this is also you may be right. I didn't know it was a shepherd's rod. I just assumed it meant like an instrument
A
for
lot of people
punishing the
do.
child.
Do a little deeper dive. I could be wrong, but as far as I understand, it's
I
actually the
I
shepherd.
think you're right. No, I think you're right. But I still think with that most respect that it's irrelevant. The point is, my mother used the cake batter rubber thing to smack my bum.
Right.
And the point is, if she hadn't done that, she doesn't love me. That's the Christian biblical mindset is if you don't punish your child, if you don't discipline them, you don't love them. But if you let them run around doing everything, they'll go and they have no boundaries of discipline, then you don't really love them. Like it's why a judge, if you say to a judge, I know I murdered 5 people, but I won't do it again. And I haven't done it before. If they don't punish me, I'm not going to learn. And that judge isn't doing right by me. I need to be punished for killing those 5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
like
in
that's
a
just
free society, I honestly don't know how that situation would be handled. I've heard some pretty good arguments and
and
scenarios, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this conversation. But I do want
oh,
to
I
encourage.
wanted to add a caveat. that I forgot to mention before. But sorry, go. What do you want to encourage? Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just want to encourage you to
Your
try
show.
reading that quote a little differently, but imagine or picture the rod as guidance. You know, if you
Okay.
spare the guidance that the rod offers, if you spare that guidance in your children, it's clearly a sign that you kind of hate them. You're not even willing to guide them in the right direction. Like, I'm not even willing to say, hey, this is what's good. This is the direction you should go. These are the things you should do. Clearly, you kind of hate your kid, right? If you're not even doing that, that's kind of the definition of neglect. Like, if you neglect your children, this is how I hear it. Now that I kind of
Oh, that's a
I
good
picture
point.
it,
Yeah.
if you neglect your children, you clearly don't love them. Like, you need to pay
Yes, well,
attention to your kid.
that makes sense. Yes.
Right. It's just another way of kind of viewing the same lyric, so to speak. It's, I think the Bible's a little bit like a song. Like, you can kind of interpret it your own way if you want. Right? Do you agree with that? I
I
know that's
think that's true to a point. That's true to a point. But I was going to say earlier,
yeah.
I'm only for parents spanking their own children within the confines of what that punishment was. My caveat is I don't think teachers, I don't think corporal punishment, I'm not for any of that. I don't think it was okay for teachers to be smacking the kids across the knuckles, and not that we need to worry about that. That's non-existent today as far as I'm aware. But
What's
yeah.
funny? Yeah, with
Mm,
that caveat,
yeah.
what's funny is there's a lot of people that are pro spanking that feel like because we took spanking out of schools, that's the reason why kids are so crazy nowadays. So they've gotten so out of control. There's a lot of people that actually
That could be true. I hadn't considered that, but I
yeah,
still don't like other. I smacked my cousin's child one time,
yeah.
and it caused so many problems in the family that basically I broke the family for like a few years. What he did was his grandmother, my auntie, he he pushed her, and I got really mad because I was like, this little boy, he's 3 years old and he's being trained to hate his grandmother because I feel like a particular family member of mine hated his mother, my
Mhm.
auntie. So I grabbed the little boy's hand and I smacked it. Literally, that's what I did. I did that, and I thought, well, we're all family. We're all allowed to guide this kid. It takes a village. Nope, that was wrong, and I shouldn't
Yeah,
have smacked him. And it became this whole thing, how evil I am, and that I left him black and blue. Think those were lies. But like, point
that's
being
crazy. That
that
doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to be like a proponent of spanking, like, you would think, like, I don't know, if you view it as a good
I
thing,
shouldn't have smacked
like,
my cousin's baby.
right? It's okay for
Right? I did the wrong thing, and I can even acknowledge that even to this day that I did the wrong thing. Right? But
well, if it
it
was your
shouldn't.
baby, then it's okay. That doesn't to me that doesn't logically follow. Like, you know
What
what
do
I'm
you
saying?
mean?
If
So
you
if
smack
you were
your
my
cousin's
next door
baby,
neighbor
that's
and you were basically a brother to me,
yeah,
and I said to you, look, I don't mind you smacking the kid if he does something wrong. That's different because I've given you permission,
right,
right?
right.
So how would it? What
No,
are
I
you
get,
trying
I
to
get,
say?
I get that, but in this scenario, you're saying, well, I smacked my cousin's child.
Yes, and I
That was
shouldn't have.
wrong. But
Yes,
if that child was your child and you smacked him for the exact same action, exact same scenario, the kid did the exact same act, then it's okay. Then it's moral. Then it's the good thing to do. It's the right thing.
because I'm directly the parent. I'm the direct parent.
Right. So that's just that.
So why
I find
why
that,
is it?
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't click with me. But it might be
It
just
does.
because
Do you have brothers or sisters?
I do.
And would you have been allowed to discipline your niece or nephew?
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been an issue the way it
No,
was in my
not
family.
at all. Not at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting.
that's what it makes sense because I have heard of families that are like, it takes a village mentality, right? Where it's like, hey, kids out acting a fool. Hell,
Mhm.
I've even heard of whole neighborhoods coming up that were like, okay, well, if Brenda down the road catches your kid doing something he shouldn't be doing, bust his ass and bring him
Mm.
home. It's it's just different cultures, I think.
But
When
you would think, well, yeah, the Latino mindset, I thought it would have been the village thing, but I think we've been Australianized a lot as well.
yeah,
And so, yeah.
yeah, that is interesting though. But just the difference between like it's like you even used the word evil. Like they viewed you as like evil for
They
hitting this kid.
did. It broke the family. I mean, I
No,
probably shouldn't have
literally the
divulged this,
only
but I haven't mentioned any names, so it's okay.
right,
But
but
yeah,
literally the
for
only
like
piece
3-ish
that
years,
yeah. So literally the
they
only
didn't
piece
speak
that
to
would
me.
change in the scenario is that child then becomes your kid, and now it's not only not evil, but now it's good, right?
Wait, what?
So it went from being an evil act, you doing it to your cousin,
My
but
yeah, my nephew
but if
ish.
that kid
Yeah.
was then the only puzzle piece that changes is that kid becomes your kid. Now it's not
Yes,
only is it
because
not
that kid
evil,
is my responsibility
now it's the
if
good
it's
thing.
mine.
Like you're saying, it's
Yes.
good to do. That does
Yes, because I'm the parent.
does that even? I can't imagine any literally
I'm
any
not
like I
I'm
just
not actually. I know you're trying to
yeah
communicate something to me, and I'm just not getting it.
no that's fine.
What
I just for
I
me
don't.
it doesn't make sense to me like why we as a society have sectioned off children in their own special category. I mean, I get that they're
That
young and
category
they're
being
learning.
within the family and the extended family
I don't know.
in
There's
this
almost like
example.
separate laws and rules that apply. Um, and like I said in the beginning, it's like literally if anybody else. Like if you were to bend them over your knee and take a belt and smack them on the ass with it, like we would be like
All I did
aghast.
was
Like
that.
that would,
That's all I
I
did.
know, and everybody else would be like, oh my god, that what a bitch! I can't believe she did that. But like if you do it to your own kid, you're like, oh well, that kid probably had it coming. Like what?
Oh, okay. I think I'm finally starting
That
to
doesn't
understand a little bit.
logically click. I mean, how is the kid going to learn the lesson any differently from you doing it versus you doing it to your cousin's kid? Like
The problem is that the reaction after that,
yeah,
the kid saw all of this stuff go down and me being spat on and yelled at for doing this thing, and then so much extra happened that I won't divulge, but the kid would have been disturbed by it. So the kid didn't ever do it again, I'll say that.
right,
But and the kid is lovely to the grandmother now,
yeah,
my auntie. But it caused it just became
yeah,
this really
yeah,
big thing. And definitely had I smacked my own kid in that scenario, I don't think the family would have reacted. But me doing it to someone else, my niece, my nephew, or whoever, yeah, it had a reaction.
yeah, yeah. That's
A bad one.
that's the point I'm trying to communicate is that part where
That
it
doesn't make sense to you.
like it went all the way. Okay, so like it went all the way from evil to good, right? It didn't
If
just
it's
it didn't just become not evil. It became good. It went all the way to like now it's the good thing just because of the relationship has changed
yes.
in that scenario. And that's what I'm sitting here going, what other
But
scenario?
wait, if it was a teacher doing it,
Yeah.
how does what's your thinking on that?
If a teacher smacked my kid,
Yeah.
oh, I'd have their ass.
So why is it different if it's a cousin?
Oh, for okay, so I'm looking for consistency. I'm like, okay, if the whole family's like cool with it and the whole community's cool with it, whatever, that makes sense to me. Everybody's on the same plane. It makes logical sense, right? To me. But for the very same community or to view it as good if the parent does it, but evil if you do it to your cousin, like that's
Okay.
that's where I'm like, it seems
Yeah.
like,
I was trying to ascertain what your thinking
yeah,
was.
to me it seems like such an overreaction of the family. To me, I don't know. It just seems like such an overreaction. Like you said, it caused like for a couple of years it went on like this. Like
Yeah, I was the villain. I mean, I've always been the outsider in my family.
I can
I think
see
that's no
that. I can see it.
surprise. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, got
Yeah,
even worse when I was a pure blood.
Carrie from Facebook says my dad was smacked by his teacher with rulers.
Yeah,
No,
I think it was a thing back then.
yeah, I came up in schools when spanking was still allowed in schools. Now in
Oh,
this
I
area,
wasn't.
in this area where I'm at, spanking is allowed, but only if the parent gives permission.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, in the beginning, I gave permission because
Sure. Okay.
it was still within my moral compass to spank kids, and that was what we do.
Sure.
So, but then
That
we
doesn't
changed
even
it,
exist in
and
Australia.
I'm
That
glad that
option doesn't even exist here.
oh, okay. So I'm kind of glad that at least we had the option. But when I was a
Sure,
kid,
sure.
I got it one time. I was in the cafeteria drawing pictures of boobs because I was like 12 or 13, and I thought it was awesome that I could draw boobs.
It's always funny to draw boobs.
I know. I'm like a young man, and I'm just discovering like, hey, boobs are cool, and I can draw them. Like it's very cool. Well, apparently they didn't see it as very artistic, an expression of my artistic skills, and I ended up having to go to the principal's office and got smacked with a paddle. And that hurt so bad. It made you bend over. I'm like, good lord, man. It was not fun. It was not fun. But guess what? It didn't stop me
Oh.
from drawing pictures of boobs. It didn't stop me.
Do you still
Because
draw them?
I've always been a rebel. I've always had an issue with authority. All right, I think I'm about throw out all.
We can wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah, I throw out all my talking points for the night. I think this has been a pretty fun show.
I think we agree for the most part on
Yeah.
most things.
I think we do. I think it was just that one sticking point where I view it as abusive, and you're like not so much, right?
It's not abusive, no.
And again, I do want to point out for folks that I do recognize there is a degree. I mean, I'm not equivocating spanking with neglect or straight up like beatings or where you're leaving.
Oh no, neither of us are. Yeah, just to finish off on that, we
equivocate.
both hate beatings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would only beat my child if they deserved it. Just kidding. That was a joke. I don't have children.
Not yet, but you will.
God willing.
God willing. By the way, if anybody's watching this and is looking for a beautiful, nice Christian young lady who's currently looking right now
In Australia.
and
In Australia.
she's in Australia. Yeah,
Australia.
from
Bedroom.
down. Here, let me go full southern. Now, this young lady from down yonder down there, she's all the way in Australia, all the way across the ocean, way on yonder, and she is an amazing young lady. I'll tell you what. So you go on over, you head on over to DL Beltran's channel, and you give her a holler, give her a shout
Oh
out.
my gosh,
Tell her-
that's so southern.
I
You
pick,
sound like Duck Dynasty.
I pick up a few things while I'm here for sure.
Yeah.
You should have heard me back in Wichita, boy. I was speaking Ebonics like the best of them.
Good old Wichita, is it Wichita, Kansas? No,
Wichita, Kansas. Wichita,
Oh, I was right. Okay. Ooh,
Kansas.
better
Yeah.
at American stuff than I realized. Cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I barely know what time it is in Melbourne.
It's 12:40 p.m. on Sunday.
I'm aware you're 15 hours ahead, but wait until the time changes, and then I'll be completely lost again.
Oh,
Listen,
you mean
it's
daylight savings?
yeah, daylight savings. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love speaking with you every time I get the chance, and we don't get to do it often
Yay!
enough. You need to come on more
No, we
often.
haven't.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed seeing Dia tonight, hey, give her a shout out, tell her you enjoyed the show, and if I'm an idiot for not spanking my kids, let me know. I can take it.
Oh yeah, of course you're an idiot, but I still love you.
Yeah, thank you.
All
right,
it sounds like you've done good creative parenting. It's good.
All right, you want to give folks your vital statistics, tell people where they can reach you?
My YouTube channel, I think, I don't know if the link is there, but it's Dia. It's basically my name. Write that in YouTube. On Instagram, I am Dia Latina, DIALATINA, and those are the main two that I use. I also have a Telegram, but I've been really absent on it.
Just
But yeah,
give them the ones you use. If you want her YouTube channel,
Instagram.
her YouTube is in the description, so you can check out her channel as well. Got some great content. She is a young lady that does really cool stuff, has a great conscientious heart, and deserves to have children.
Yay!
Okay.
So I can smack them.
Yeah, so you can smack them. I still have time to work on you. Okay, you still got time. All right. So
I can never smack a baby.
I'm gonna close you out here for a minute and then close out the show. I'll be right back. So yeah, you have been watching the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom, and tonight's conversation was no different. I want to know what you guys think. Honestly, I really do. As far as some of the scenarios we brought up during the show, I would be interested to hear what would be your ideas for alternative methods, or what would be something that you could come up with to handle a situation differently, instead of spanking. So, whether you're pro spanking or anti spanking, I think everybody is looking for, or every parent rather, is looking for alternative ways that they can kind of get the message across and build a good relationship with their kids. I don't think I've met anybody that's like, no, I don't want to have a good relationship with my kids. I'll tell you what, look, you start trying to connect consequences with actions, and it does make a difference whether you believe in the spanking part or not. Anyway, that being said, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. And I'm going to find the button and just